Hello, friends. I'm no therapist, but I'm your host, Stephanie Goodman. I'm a wife, a mother, a grandmother, and a woman of faith. Often friends ask me how I have a successful marriage while blending families and staying optimistic in life. This podcast features people with real-life stories about success in relationships and triumph over trial. Do you believe in the power of words? Could your words really save a marriage, a relationship with your children, or change how you show up in the world? My guest, Becky Kemp, an author, speaker, life coach, and podcast host, shares her passionate journey of discovering the power of words in her life. Grab a notebook and pen. Let's learn together. So we have a mutual friend. Her name is Connie Sokol. Connie is a radio personality. She's a podcaster. She runs retreats where she helps you to focus on what it is that you want to do with your life. And we met at one called Balance and Redefined. It's a 3-month online course. And this took place, we believe, in 2019, fall of 2019.
Oh, well, let me just tell you a little bit about me. It was how we met through a class with Connie. It was an online class, and it was actually the first time I ever invested in myself with something that I really had a desire to do.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that is, so I'm a mom, a full-time mom, have 5 boys, and I adore my boys. But when I was younger, I kind of just thought I had to be a mom and only a mom. And I didn't know that I really could pursue those desires, those secret desires, even in my heart. And probably about 3 or 4 years before we met, I had an experience where I found myself really struggling with depression, with anxiety, and just life. Life was just getting the better of me. And I was looking at everybody else thinking they needed to change. If they only changed, then my life would be better.
Oh.
And I had a really profound experience through prayer. I'm a believer in God.
Mm-hmm.
And God impressed upon my mind that I needed to learn to change my own words. And I didn't really know what that meant at the time, but it put me on this journey. And I won't get into all the things with words right now, but the point I want to bring was I became open-minded and willing to start looking at myself instead of just wanting everybody else around me to change. And through that time, I started a positive t-shirt and apparel business called Becoming Threads. And it was putting the power of words on every day. And I teamed up with my sister-in-law, and we were the B, me being Becky, and her name was Erin, the B behind Becoming Threads. And our tagline was, let what you wear tell your story. And I loved this, Stephanie. It was great. It was hard. I'd never run a business before. Between us, we each had 5 children. Between us, we had 10 children. We each had 5. We didn't know what we were doing, but we had a dream and a desire, and we started. And we got led, and we started selling shirts and different things. But as I went through that experience, what my true desire was, what I'd always wanted to do, and this is how we met, is I'd always wanted to be a speaker, and I'd always wanted to write a book. I don't know why, but that's something that was on my mind since I was a little girl. But I had never done it because I'd always tell myself, I don't have a good story to tell. I'm not talented enough. Like, I always went to the reasons why I can't do it instead of, well, why not just try? And so that back to how we met that was the first time that I really started to acknowledge to the world or to myself that I wanted to write a book. And I wanted to get into speaking. And I wanted to take what I was learning about the power of words and how I was changing my whole story by just changing my words. I actually wanted to share that story to the world. And lo and behold, I started saying to my sister-in-law, to my husband, to people out in the world, I really want to write a book. And then I met Connie. And Connie had this 3-month program that was for someone that had a desire to write a book, speak, and be a media influencer. And I thought, that's the place for me. But I had never invested in myself.
Yeah.
I I'd always just invested in everybody else. And so it was hard for me. And I think many of us were in a space when we joined to pay money and to invest to get coached by someone that was doing what you wanted to do. But
Absolutely.
today, as a life coach, I've since become a life coach because I realized that's what we need. We need coaches. We need help. We need mentors. We need guides. That's why you and I both have podcasts to like share what we're learning with others.
Hmm.
And it was an awesome experience that got me started on my book, outlining it. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm getting, I'm continuing to learn how to get a book out into the world. There's so much learning, but that was a great experience. Other women that I think all of us were women, but we all had that desire to put something out into the world. And I love that we met that way. So great.
I love that too. And I love that you mentioned that this was the first time that you invested in yourself. I think that we can definitely relate to that. And I mean, we, meaning many women. As mothers, we are naturally givers. And I was talking about this the other day where I am okay. I would love to go and get whatever it is that my children need and give that to them, even if it takes me to a place of being financially struggling, right? But if I know that they need it, I will make sure that they have it. Investing in myself, it's taken an uncomfortable zone for me to jump into to allow myself to be invested in. And also there's that factor of what if I fail, right?
Oh,
What if I'm not good enough and I fail? So now I've spent all this money and I'm failing. Where do I have to show for that?
yeah.
Talk
Well,
about words.
I want to say two things to that. In the last 2 days, I've had different things come up that talk to both those points. The first thing is yesterday I was coaching a client. She is having to change some of her eating and some different things.
Hmm.
And she's having thoughts that she doesn't have time to do it. And it's so fascinating because it's exactly what you said. It was like, but if this diagnosis was given to your son or your daughter, what would you do? Well, you would do anything. You
Yeah.
would do anything. But it is very hard, especially for women, to invest in themselves. It's very challenging. And that's why I believe everybody, they owe it to themselves to invest in themselves, to put goodness into their life, to put the power of words with good words that influence them to be better. It just makes us better. The other point was when you talked about the we don't have time, we don't have, what if we fail, we spend too much money, all those things. I was listening to another talk on Sunday. I was sitting in church and they talked about success comes through failure. And they shared a quote about Albert Einstein, all the times he failed, and all these people that we see today as successful. But Thomas Edison, how many times did he fail before he succeeded, right? And it
Hmm.
has to do with managing our thoughts around things. Because if I was kind of trying to create this book from a place of that I had written it already, I mean, I've never written it. So I have to allow myself grace to be like, I'm learning as I go. And that's been really helpful for me in my marriage, as a parent, as a human being. I'm a human being. I make mistakes. We're just learning as we go. And I think both of us learned that through that experience together, right? We learned a lot and it kept us moving forward on a path, but both of us have taken different turns along the way
Yeah.
3 or 4 years later,
Hmm.
and that's okay.
That's exactly right. And it is amazing to see how the words make a difference. Does it feel heavy or does it feel lighter? Does it empower you or does it really tear you down? Then you can be mindful of what words you're using. I wanted to share with you in lieu of success over failure, right? Somehow we feel like that's the only balance that we have is success over failure. But what I have learned is that education is so much more valuable.
Mhm.
It's an experience, and I'm paying for education. Just like you said, would I invest in my kids and going to school and learning something that they wanted to? Absolutely. But now it was my turn to invest in myself. And the idea of investing myself in the amount that was asked made my hands sweat. Like, oh, I was so excited because I knew that she was the one that was going to take me through a journey of discovering parts of me that, like you said, I've always wanted to do, right?
Well, I love that you talked about education, and education creates experiences, and
Mm-hmm.
experience expand our mind. And I love one of my favorite quotes by Maya Angelou is do the best you can until you know better. And when you know better, do better.
Oh, I
And so
love that.
we learn every day. And if we're willing to be open to words. So what I learned was from coming from selling t-shirts to stepping into this role as a coach and a speaker, is I really talk about the words you put on every day. Like, what words are you choosing to put on? And people don't really think about that, but we choose the thoughts that we put on every day. We maybe just aren't aware to it. You and I, look, we're kind of matching, you know. We both chose cheetah print today. We did not talk about this.
No, we did
We
not.
walked into our closet and we decided, ooh, that feels good. It's this time of the year. I want to wear that. I want to wear this today. We both had a decision of why we wanted to wear. We maybe didn't think about it very long, but we did decide.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I challenge people to look at is, what are you thinking to put on every day? The thoughts here, because our thoughts determine how we feel.
Yes.
So if I put on thoughts that I'm less than and I don't like myself and I'm a terrible person, I feel differently. And so we can actually choose our thoughts, and we can decide, you know what, that thought's not serving me. I'm going to put on a different thought. How do I want to feel? And that's what I do as a coach, is I help people see that they're not as stuck as they might think they are. They might think that they're stuck because they're waiting for their outside circumstances to change. But we don't have to have our outside circumstances be perfect to find joy from within, right?
Oh, I
And
love that.
so there's a statistic out there that the average person puts on between 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts a day. This is from the National Science Foundation. And they say that 80% of the thoughts are negative. 95% of the thoughts are ones that we thought the day before. So the first step to anything is, like you said, education or becoming aware to something, right? As you become aware to something and you educate your mind, then you have an experience and then you want to expand it. And that's kind of what happened to me. I found myself stuck, feeling lost. I kept telling myself, this is not how life was supposed to be. This
Mm-hmm.
is not what I thought it was going to be. This is not the plan. And I felt miserable. I felt discouraged all the time. And it wasn't until I started changing my words when God said, learn to change your words. And I became open. Like, what does that mean? And I've educated myself over the last 7 years to become an expert in the power of words. Now, that doesn't mean there's not other experts out there, but I have experienced changes with words. And that's why the book that I'm getting ready to finish in for the beginning of next year is called The Word Effect: How to Create Your Most Beautiful Life. Because so long, Stephanie, I was just saying, why is this happening? And why is that happening? And today I can change my life by saying, how do I do it? And stepping forward. So I really believe in education too, and investing in yourself. So, so important. And it doesn't always have to be through a typical school invest education. Podcasts
Correct.
are great education, right? Just so many good things
Absolutely.
out there. So
Yes, I love that. And I really enjoyed that you focused on the clothes that you put on being similar to the words that we put on and how we show up in life. I'm a big fan of Wonder Woman.
yes, I know.
And when I was on the journey of choosing to embrace Wonder Woman in my life, someone actually gave me a bracelet. And it is a
Mm.
Wonder Woman bracelet. I wear it all the time. On the back of it, it says strength, love, and grace.
Ah,
And I love those three words. No matter what the circumstances are that we're faced with, we can choose to show up in strength, love, and grace, or any of the powerful, empowering kind of words that we want to have in our life, that we want to have a focus in our life. Strength, love, and grace is how I choose to show up.
I love it. And that's exactly what I invite people to do is you get to choose. You have a choice every day with the words you put on. So despite what happens, you have that little reminder. That's what Becoming Threads, the t-shirt business that I had, was little reminders. I did vinyl stickers and I do shirts.
Mm-hmm.
I did have to put those, I honestly, to build the bigger dream that I want to do, I've had to not do as much with shirts right now. My
Yeah,
sister-in-law decided to go back and do teaching. So we kind of separated ways, all good, but it just goes to show that like we get put on a journey and we just keep stepping forward. And then, but I consciously think of words to put on every day. I love that you have three that you think about, that are empowering to you. I think about different phrases. I say them to myself. I put on different feelings like, how do I want to feel today? When I coach women, I coach through, it's called joyful living, because I feel like so many people are wanting to experience joy. Now, that doesn't mean that I can tell you how to fix all your problems, because problems are still going to be there. That's just
sure.
a part of our life experience. But like what you said, despite whatever's happening, you can think there's strength. I can have love. I can have grace. For me, I always think, how can I experience a joyful life? What is it that I can do today? It's gratitude, it's acceptance, and it's love. Most generally, those are the things too that are very powerful to me, that help me show up every day to the best of my ability. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. I
Oh, yeah.
mean, we're not always happy every
Right.
second. You know
It's
what I
true.
mean?
It's true. And we have to give ourselves grace
Yes.
when we have experiences like that and realize that this is not forever, that
Yes.
this is a season and there's a reason for it.
Yes.
So I want to go back a little bit with you because I know that our experiences in life give us the knowledge that we have. And I keep thinking about the little girl of myself. I went through a period in elementary where I did not like myself. And I had straight hair, I had braces, I had the big Coke bottle glasses. I was the ultimate example of nerd. And I expected everyone around me to treat me like that until I received some beautiful surprise gifts from some friends that would put these letters in my desk. So I'd go out to recess and I would come back and there'd be this surprise. They didn't tell me who they were for a long time.
Mhm.
And there were words, and I still have them. I still hold on to them. The letters were things like, you're beautiful today, and you're worth it, and you're valuable. And I saw that you were kind to this person. Like, if I could give that gift to everyone who's struggling with who they are, that is a passion for me because
Mhm.
it changed my world to see that somebody else thought higher of me than I did of my own self. I remember one teacher who I looked up to so much. She taught us about affirmations. And my first introductory to affirmations was actually taking my letters of my name and
Mhm.
writing a power word to each one of those. And I still have some of those lists. I know that affirmations can be an uncomfort zone, especially when you haven't been taught how to love yourself. Do you mind sharing with me your journey of embracing affirmations?
Yeah, I'll share with you a story that comes to mind. I mentioned that 7-8 years ago I found myself feeling really dejected in a lot of areas, and it was a real low. On the outside, everything looked fine. I knew how to say all the right things and put on the happy face, like, how are you doing? Oh, I'm fine. But really, in that time, I was really struggling in my marriage. I was really struggling with my children. And I was struggling a lot with taking care of, like with my food, with my body image. And I was 39 years old at the time. So sometimes we struggle when we're younger, and I struggled when I was younger. I just never felt like I fit in, and I always felt less than, just always felt less than. And I mentioned that I, kind of prayed out to God one time and just said, something is wrong with me. I need some help. And he impressed upon my mind that I needed to change my words. And I did not know what that meant, but I became curious to it. And so I started change my words. What does that mean? And one of my first experiences was I was watching a Netflix documentary around food. And I heard I can't even tell you what the documentary said, but I did hear this. They invited me to put on some words, and they said, say these words to yourself every morning, middle of the day, and night. And the words were, I accept myself unconditionally right now. Well, I did not believe those words. They did not roll off my tongue.
Focusing on weight. I accept myself
Well,
unconditionally as I am right now.
I accept myself unconditionally right now. I needed it for a lot of areas of my life. It wasn't just for weight, but I was watching a documentary around food, and I could not, I had to pause the thing, and I thought, what did they say? And I listened to it again, and I wrote it down, and they invited you to say it to yourself every morning, middle of the day, and night. And I thought, I'm not going to be able to remember that because I don't accept myself unconditionally right now. They weren't words that just freely rolled off. They were not words that I was putting on or that freely rolled off my tongue, right? And I didn't even know about the idea of putting on words. This was like the beginning of my journey. And what I did was I put them on a little 3x5 card. And since that time, I've typed up the card. So I can just show you what it looks like. But it just says, I accept myself unconditionally right now. And I put it on my bathroom mirror. And I decided that I would see it every morning and night because I'm pretty consistent at brushing my teeth. And so as I brush my teeth, I would read that to myself. And I would say it. And I would say it if I meant it. And I would say it if I didn't mean it. And I just thought, what do I have to lose? That was kind of my thought. I don't have anything to lose. Nobody has to know I'm doing it. The more I started to say it to myself, I don't know if I started to believe it right now, but then something would happen and I would think, but I accept myself unconditionally right now. Because oftentimes life happens, circumstances happen that we have absolutely no control of.
Absolutely.
No control of. And as soon as I would start saying that, I would relax just a little bit. And this is what I found. Acceptance is such a great principle, but it's hard sometimes because if I don't accept myself where I'm at right now, I'm either in the past, and the past is regret. The past is depression, like, oh, I wish, or the future. And that's where the anxiety goes. Well, I was living a life either in the past regret, like, oh, I'm not doing what I wish I would have done, or, regret of this or that, the choices I made.
Yeah.
Or I was always in the future of the unknown. And so I wasn't living in the present. I wasn't living a joyful life today. So that was my first experience of really starting to put on words, is like, I accept myself unconditionally right now. And I say it to myself every morning and night, several times. After that experience, then other words started to catch my attention, other phrases, other things that meant something to me. And that's what I invite people to find out, is what are those words that you want to put on? You don't have to put on my words. I oftentimes, when I speak, I give them the challenge to start putting on, I accept myself unconditionally right now, but they don't have to, but I give them those first words. But then I invite people to find other words that matter to you. And I believe as you start to become aware to words, other words will start coming into your life. So now if you were to look at my bathroom mirror, I have several phrases, several things that matter to me. And if other words catch my attention, I put them there and I read them. I also listen to good music. I read good literature. I read different things that help me to stay positive and to look for the good, because there's a thing called the negative bias, and psychologists have proved this. Our brains are just wired to look for the negative. And so when you were a little girl, you were focused on that you didn't look like everybody else and that you weren't enough. And so your brain's like, okay, let me just show you why you're even more less than.
Mm-hmm.
Let me give you more evidence. But it was those words that somebody started to offer you that when you would read, "You're beautiful," your mind would go, well, maybe you are beautiful. And you maybe didn't accept it at the beginning, but the more you put on those words, there's a reason why now you still have those papers from years ago. They made you feel different because you were thinking a little different about yourself.
Mm.
That's how words are. But we need reminders. We need reminders. It's not like we just do it one day and then we're cured. We're
It's
humans.
true.
We have to
Have
be
you
reminded every day.
ever experienced where words seem so heavy and they seem unbelievable? And how do you move through that? How do you come to a space of embracing a word in your life?
Well, I guess I can even speak to what I just said with these words. I accept myself unconditionally right now. Those were heavy words for me 7
Mm.
or 8 years ago. I did not accept myself. I was fighting depression. I was fighting anxiety. I did not love myself, even though people would think I was, but it was a lot of mental stuff is it's a hidden thing that many people fight. You know what I mean? And so I just remember thinking, what if this works? And I could do it and nobody had to know. And the only thing that I had to do was to be consistent with it. So what I find is it's a consistent little things. And that's what I love about the power of words. I want to share with you one of my absolute favorite quotes of all time.
Okay.
And I have to read it, but I have it right by my desk because I read it on a regular basis. It's by Richard G. Scott. I heard it several years ago, and he said this: remember, little things lead to big things. Seemingly insignificant indiscretions or neglect can lead to big problems. More importantly, simple, consistent, good habits lead to a life full of bountiful blessings. And
Mm.
Stephanie, I love those words because I can do the little things. I can't do the big things. They are too overwhelming for me, but like putting on some positive words every day, putting some goodness in my life every day, just a little bit, I can do. And what I love about this is it says little things lead to big things. And it really has. My life is completely transformed. Today I'm trying to speak and get a book out and doing these things, coaching and mentoring people. I wanted to do that as a little girl, but I never had I was always full of fear. I never thought I could do it. The only thing that's changed is the words I'm putting on. I'm still the same person. I live in the same place. You know what I mean? Like,
I love that.
so I really think it's consistency and starting to just wake up every day and really think about what words am I putting on?
Mm-hmm.
Just like you get dressed every day, you know, and noticing, gosh, I keep thinking that negative thought. Do I want to keep thinking it? I don't beat myself up about it. What I help people do is get curious.
Okay.
Why do I keep thinking that? You know, why do I keep thinking it? I know that you know, had wanted to ask me a little bit about my marriage and things in my marriage. I For a long time, Stephanie, I always was thinking if he only changed this, this, and this, then I could be happy. I was waiting for him to change. I realized as I started to change my words, I can change. I'm the only person that can control me changing. And so I started to become aware to myself and work on myself. And then guess what? Things have gotten so much better.
Mm.
My marriage is so much better. My relationship with my kids is so much better. I'm doing things I've always wanted to do. And I think I'm the one that's changed by just changing my words. So, and
I,
practicing. It's
I can
practice.
definitely see that power. And I've seen the transformation of you through the times that we've gotten to know each other. And I absolutely love seeing that you're living your light out loud.
Mm.
In fact, your example of setting up your podcast was that new level for me of taking that vision that I had put on my vision board for 3 years, and also going through Connie's course, that I finally said, yeah, I'm going to do it. You would share with me how you don't edit anything. What you get is what you get, that you just have a passion for it, you turn on the system and you go. And I think that that is so inspirational to me. And I love the message that you are putting out there of the power of our words. You know, I have this beautiful little thing right here. This is my favorite water bottle. I carry it with me everywhere. It's my favorite color, purple. And it has these wonderful word stickers that are all over it. I do, I have, I am enough, stand tall and be different. It's my
With the flamingos, yes.
flamingos. Yep, there's one flamingo that's different. Breathe, which is so, so important. And be happy. I love that. Also, I have my little my little do not feed the Bigfoot. But
That's a good
other
one
than
too.
that, these are the words that I enjoy carrying with me. This is a product that I use all the time, and it reminds me of our time together, actually.
Yeah, those were all designs that were t-shirts at one time with becoming threads, and
And I
then
have two of those.
they got put into vinyl stickers. And then as I started to step forward, today it's becoming with Becky, and I'm a life coach and speaker, and I do have a podcast called The Word Effect. And I was like you, Stephanie, it was on my vision board. It was something I wanted to do for probably 2 years. And finally, I just put it, what was holding me back was I wasn't prepared enough. Well, if we're ever prepared enough, we would have already done it. You know what I
Right?
mean? We have to
Mm-hmm.
get started.
Waiting for
And
perfect,
so,
right?
yeah. And so I have to really, what I love about the Word Effect and what I teach on and offer on my podcast, The Word Effect, is it's simple, positive, and proactive tips to kind of keep us moving forward. It's progress over perfection. So often we get stuck in perfection. Like, well, I will start the podcast when I know how. I wanted to start the t-shirt business when I knew how. But if I was still waiting to know how, I mean, I knew how to do it as I learned, as I
Mm-hmm.
started.
Mm-hmm.
And that was even with like making my marriage better, was instead of saying, why is this happening? Why? It was, how do I make it better? And I started to look at myself. How do I make it better? I had heard a saying one time, and it was something that I learned through a 12-step program. And it was, change me, bless them. And that's a hard thing, because most of us want to say, change them, bless me. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like, bless me while they change. But
Right.
really, the focus is change me,
Change me.
bless them. And that is where I look for words every day to help me improve, to help me become better. And that's why it's becoming with Becky coaching and speaking, because I invite people to look at themselves when they're ready and take a step forward and work on ourselves. Because if we're waiting for everyone else to change, it'd be like the podcast. We'll just keep waiting. We'll never start. We'll never live the desires of our heart because we're waiting. And I just like to say, we don't have to wait anymore. We have the power to create the life we've always wanted. And I share how to do it, what I've
Wow.
experienced, and invite people to try.
Yeah, and you have experienced the change in your life, so you can speak from that stance of, guess what? Here I was. This is what I did, and you can have this experience too, which is so, so powerful.
Yeah.
There's a quote that I really enjoy. It's by Wayne Dyer, and it says, "Change the way you look at things, and the way you look at things change."
Yep. Exactly what I just said, that change me, bless them. When we start changing the way we look at things, when we put on the power of words and we start seeing things differently, it's because the way we think. It's not that our circumstances have changed. I am an all boy mom. People ask me all the time, are you sad that you didn't have a girl? Of course I was sad. I wanted a girl. My plan, Stephanie, was I wanted 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls. My life is I'm a mom of 5 boys. It didn't go how I planned.
Oh,
And
yeah.
there's many other things I could get into that didn't go how I planned. I know you could tell me, your listeners, we could have a whole big session where we all talked about how our lives didn't go as planned.
Mm-hmm.
We have to acknowledge that, but then we get to say, okay, but how do I be an all boy mom? And how do I love it? How do I embrace it? How do I deal with this experience and still find joy in my life? That's the journey that I have found. Because if not, I just sit there stuck waiting for something to change.
Right. Yeah. And I love that
So,
you embrace the how.
yeah,
You ask powerful questions, and because you're asking powerful questions, you are honing your brain into looking for those answers. I think other than the words that we put on us are the questions that we ask ourselves.
yeah, yeah. So the first 3 words in the book that will be coming out next year, the word effect, how to create your most beautiful life, I have 7 power words that I believe are words that we all have the opportunity to put on. They all start with A, and I'll tell you the first 3. The
Okay.
first word is acknowledge.
Oh, I
We have to
love the
start
power
by
of
acknowledging,
acknowledge.
because you acknowledged you wanted to do a podcast, and so you started to put that out into the universe. Then the second power word is ask. We start to ask questions. We ask questions of ourselves, we ask questions of others. And I invite people to ask questions to their higher power,
Mm-hmm.
having that, becoming curious. And then the third power word is acceptance. We get to accept where we're at. We don't beat ourselves up. I
Right.
don't have a podcast that's been going for 12 years. I have a podcast that's been going for a year. And I find acceptance with that. Because if not, if I was always comparing myself to someone that has been doing it for 10 years, I'm always going to be less than. I'm always going to be comparing myself, and compare only leads to despair.
Oh, I
So
love
those are
that. Will
the
you
first,
stop on that?
yeah, yeah,
Compare
leads to
always
despair.
leads to despair.
Yeah, yeah.
Whew, that is so powerful.
So these are the first 3 words. And as I coach women, I teach them all of the 7 words, and I teach them how they can actually decide which words that they want to put on, and they can get back into curiosity, and they can live the life that they want regardless of what's happening. And these words are just kind of a way of stepping forward, and we can stay on a word as much as we want. The first 3 words to me, acknowledge, ask, and accept, I have to put on almost every day. I have to think about it, because I always have that next goal or that next thing I'm working for or that next experience. So I'm always acknowledging where I'm at. And then right goes with it is asking, just like you said, the power of asking.
Right.
That's how we get answers, is we
So
ask.
I'm wondering with those questions, acknowledge, ask, and
Acceptance.
accept,
Hmm.
how can that better someone's relationship?
Well, I'll just share from my own experience. But when I was really struggling in my marriage, the first step was to acknowledge it, that I was struggling in my marriage, that I started to tell people, you know what, I'm not as happy as I look. And
Mm,
it wasn't that I was bashing my husband,
there's a
but I was
difference.
acknowledging it.
Okay.
And I acknowledged to my Heavenly Father. I said, God, I'm not real happy right now. Is there something I can do? And then I began to ask questions.
Then you asked.
I started asking, I'm not real happy. I think that my marriage should be better than this. There's a lot of things that have happened in my marriage that I didn't want to have happen, which we all have. I know I'm not unique in that. And I started to ask. That's when God put on my heart, change your words. And then I've had so many experiences since that time, but one of the key ones was change your words. It was a really simple thing that I almost looked past, because it's like, come on, we got to do something big to change my life, not this little thing. And then I found acceptance, and that's when I started to work on myself. And I took off my negative eyes towards my husband, and I focused on me. And I thought, where can I improve? That's when I started telling people my true desires. I wasn't living my true desires, Stephanie, to be a presence in the world. I was just kind of doing what everybody thought I should do.
Yeah.
And I wasn't doing what I wanted to do, the person I was sent here to be.
Mm.
And as soon as I started to change, and it was ever so slow, like I share this with you, but this has been a journey for me, and I'm still on the journey. I'm still on the journey. You asked me when I'm going to get my book out, and the goal is 2022. I'm in my second round of edits, and then we're going to try to get it out. I'm working on self-publishing it. There's so many things I have to learn, but I keep acknowledging, asking, accepting. And then there's other words that kind of round us out, but that was how I started within my marriage, is acknowledging and asking, acceptance. And it's made a huge difference. And I work on it every day. I do work on it every day.
I love that.
This isn't one of those things that you do and you figure out. At least I haven't figured out how to do it, and then I don't have to think about my words. It's something I think about every day. What words do I want to put on? Because if I go back to that statistic I told you, if 80% of our thoughts are negative and 95% of them are the ones we thought the day before, it's something I have to work on every day. But now I've found a solution of how to do it, and it's amazing. So
I love that. I want to bring up just a quick example. I'm in a second marriage. My first marriage was hard. And if I were to look back on the things that I know now, I think that I could have prevented a lot of the trials and things that did happen in my first marriage. I'm grateful for the experience that I had then to be able to incorporate that in my marriage now. I make sure that my husband knows that he's my favorite man in the whole universe. I call him my best friend. I flirt with him any chance that I can. I am so grateful to wake up next to him in the morning, and I flirt with him then. I look for opportunity to let him know that he's my favorite man. I look for opportunities to share with him that, like when I was a teenager, I wish I could do, right? This is my investment, and I believe that the words are what makes our relationship really come together. I think about, in a biblical sense, when Christ came back to earth, that God introduced Christ as my beloved.
Mm-hmm.
So, what titles are we putting on our family members? What titles are we putting on ourselves? How do we show up in the world? We are kinder to strangers than we are to our friends. And we are kinder to our friends than we are to our family members. And we're kinder to our family than we tend to be to our spouses. And then we are kinder to our spouse than we tend to be to ourselves.
It is so true. It is so true. And the thoughts that you put on determine how you feel. So back to what you're saying, you have learned so much, and in your marriage today, you put on thoughts that help you feel love and connected to your husband.
Yes.
If you are waking up every morning and you are putting on thoughts like he's worthless and he doesn't help around the house, and your focus is on all the things he doesn't do,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to feel that way.
Yep.
You won't,
That's
because
exactly right.
our thoughts drive how we feel. Then how we feel drives our actions. When we feel love, when we feel acceptance, when we feel joy, we show up to the world differently. If we're feeling angry, if we're feeling discontent, disgruntled, if we're feeling suspicious, we show up differently, right?
It's
Now, I'm
true.
not saying that we don't ever feel those feelings. In coaching, one of the biggest principles I teach is the 50-50. There are days that we have gray days. There are hard days. A marriage is not always going to be rosy on, walking on the clouds.
Correct.
We learn as we go. You've learned through your experiences, you've learned through your story, even through a previous marriage, you've learned as you've gone. Failure, heartache makes us better. If we never had gray days, Stephanie, we would not appreciate the sunny days.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where words matter. And that's what I say over and over is we will feel discouraged at times. We will be frustrated at times, but how long do we want to stay there? And if we're waiting for somebody to make us happy, we will not find happiness because it is an internal job. If we want to love somebody, it is an internal job. And it goes back to choice. It goes back to choice. So I don't
Really
say this
does.
that I have this rosy perfect marriage every day and we only say nice things. I don't tell you this and say that I never say a cross word to my kids, and I just always say, oh, we're just happy. It's not always like that. It's not. But when I find myself in a hard place, I get to acknowledge it. I get to ask questions and become curious, and I get to start finding acceptance. And then I move forward on the word effect. And it's really worked for me. And I found that it's working for other people too. So that's why I like to share it.
Becky, it is such a pleasure to have you here. This was such a yummy, delicious conversation. I could just eat it up.
Oh, well,
And
thank you. I so enjoyed talking with you.
I enjoyed learning with you as well. I have learned a lot, and I love the 3 steps that you mentioned of acknowledgement and asking and then acceptance. I think that those 3 words in itself will make such a huge difference. We can choose to be bitter in life or better in life. Either
Yep.
way, it's a choice, and there will be experiences that will make it that experience. It will be confirmed in our life, whatever we focus on.
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
So true.
I'm excited for your journey. I'm excited for the lives that you're going to touch with your podcast, with your speaking, and then with your book to have that in hand. I get the first autographed copy, right?
Yes. For sure.
Fabulous.
You were the first to call it, so why not? I'll give it to you.
I love it. Now, one last question that I ask all my dear friends. Knowing what you know now, what would you share with your younger self? What advice would you give?
I would say, knowing what I know now, I would say that the words I put on matter. And I did not realize how mean I was to myself for many, many years. And I don't beat myself up. I don't regret the past. That's how I've learned. But I would probably go back to what you said a few minutes ago when you said the meanest that we are is to ourselves. And that is something that now I feel called to help other people find, that we don't have to live in that space. But I have found acceptance with that. The only way I learned that was through going through that.
Yeah.
And so I don't regret it. I don't beat myself up about it. I just take my experience and my story, and now I try to share goodness out into the world to help others.
Like a butterfly, you have transformed.
Yes, I am transforming. I'm still transforming,
Aren't
but
we?
I have found a way to live a better life than I was. And And so I invite people to join me. And that's why it's Becoming with Becky. It's like, join me. I'm on this journey. Link arms with me. Let's go. You know what I mean? Like, let's do this together. Because I need others just as much as they might need me. I'm still working on myself. And I recognize that. So you're a joy, and you help me. The way you post things and the things you do have influenced me. And that's what I believe. We're all meant to help one another. And we don't have to discount who we are. We are enough just the way we are.
I want to end on that. That was beautiful. Thank you so much, Becky. Really, it's been such a pleasure to have you here. And I know that your light will continue to touch many, many lives, including your family. And what a powerful example you are to them.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, I want to give your listeners, if they want, I have a little free ebook. It's a short book that they can go to becomingwithbecky.com/join. And I give 3 power words. They're not the ones in my book, but 3 other words that I invite people to start changing and putting on in their lives. They're simple. They're one word. It's called the one word way. And so if people are intrigued by words, I invite you to get this and start putting on the power of words. And just, again, you have nothing to lose, and it might change everything. So
Well, what a gift for my listeners. Thank you so much, Becky.
you're
That brings
welcome.
me to another point. How would you like our listeners to contact you?
So they can go to my website. It's becomingwithbecky.com. That's an easy way. I do have a social media at Becoming with Becky. So they can go on Facebook or Instagram is another way. And then my podcast, The Word Effect, you can go there, subscribe. So those are all ways to get more information about the power of words, to see how words matter, and to get in touch with me. So
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Becky.
you're welcome. Thanks, Stephanie.
If you've enjoyed this episode, remember to subscribe, share, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Instagram. Please comment, because I would love to hear about what you think and what you want to see in the future. I'm no therapist, but I am your host, Stephanie Goodman.